We are looking at the legendary Japanese racehorse Gran Alegria. Gran Alegria was born in January 2016 at Northern Farm, and the biological expectations for her were just astronomical.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we know she was sired by Deep Impact, but her dam was Tappett's Fly, who was a 2-time Grade 1 winning turf miler in the U.S.
Right, and genetically speaking, that pairing is highly combustible. Deep Impact provides this elastic, explosive, fast-twitch muscle capacity.
Raw power.
Exactly. And then Tappett's Fly brings this high cruising speed over a mile. So from day one, you literally have a physical machine engineered for blistering, sustained acceleration.
But the narrative gets intensely heavy before she even debuts, right? Because tragedy strikes early. Tappett's Fly dies unexpectedly at age 11.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
And Gran Alegria is her very first foal, so suddenly she's left to carry this entire Trans-Pacific legacy completely alone. She's paired with legendary trainer Kazuo Fujisawa and jockey Christophe Lemaire, and when she finally hits the track...
It's not just a win.
No. She shatters the Tokyo 1,600-meter course record for 2-year-olds by more than a full second. And she followed that up at the Saudi Arabia Royal Cup by racing the colts and crushing them by 3.5 lengths. And because she was so efficient, her team started making decisions that honestly look a bit reckless in hindsight. I mean, they started treating her like she was immune to the normal rules of development.
They definitely found her red line by pushing her past it.
Exactly. Normally, a filly of her caliber goes to the Hanshin Juvenile Fillies race. But Lemaire was in Hong Kong, so instead of just getting a new jockey for the standard filly race, her connections completely bypass it.
Yep, they threw her to the wolves. They
throw her into the Asahi High Futurity Stakes against maturing colts. And she finishes third to Admire Mars. It's her first real defeat. But she doesn't fold. I mean, at 3 years old, she heads to the Oka show. She faces unbeaten Dan in Fantasy and future champ Chronogenesis. And she doesn't just win, she breaks the race record and pulls clear by 2.5 lengths.
An incredible bounce back.
But then, and this is what baffles me, her team does the exact same ambitious thing again. They skip the Japanese Oaks, which is the logical next step, and go for the NHK Mile Cup against the colts again.
And disaster strikes.
Total disaster. She gets boxed in, makes contact, crosses fourth, and then gets demoted to fifth for interfering with Dan and Chaser. And while she's dealing with all that track chaos, her off-track reality completely fractures. Her younger brother, Bolt Gungu, dies. Then her sire, Deep Impact, passes away within months.
It's just devastating.
She is literally the last of her immediate family. And on top of that, she develops leg issues and misses the Sprinter Stakes and the Mile Championship. The sheer accumulation of setbacks here would retire most horses.
Because injuries in high-speed animals are rarely just physical. They create compensatory habits. You know, a horse will start favoring one leg, which throws off their entire biomechanical alignment.
So recovery takes profound patience.
Immense patience.
Which makes her return at the Hanshin Cup just staggering. She comes back completely healthy and annihilates the field by 5 lengths, securing best 3-year-old filly.
She didn't just survive bad management and tragedy, she came back stronger.
Right. And because she survived that gauntlet, her team realized they had something highly resilient, which opened the door for her 4-year-old season, where they stopped trying to just beat her peers and started trying to beat the physics of the sport itself.
Ah, the transition from miler to sprinter.
Yes. They drop her down to the 1,200-meter Takamatsunomiya Kinen. Her jockey Lemaire is in Dubai, so Kenichi Aikazoe takes over. She storms from the back, finishes third, gets promoted to second. It proves she has the fast-twitch explosiveness for an elite sprint.
And then comes the defining showdown.
The Yasuda Kinen, back at a mile. And her opponent is Almondai. Now, for anyone following this era, you know Almondai is arguably the greatest mare in modern Japanese history. Almondai's jockey, Lemaire.
Right, he stayed with Almondai.
So Gran Alegria is still ridden by Aikazoe.
And this matchup is so fascinating because of their contrasting styles. Almondai was known for this suffocating, ground-eating stride that just systematically dismantled opponents. Gran Alegria was all about violent, sudden acceleration.
And that acceleration had to happen under, honestly, the most absurd conditions imaginable. Mid-race, a massive clump of turf is kicked up from a horse ahead.
Oh, this moment is unbelievable.
And it strikes Aikazoe directly in the right eye.
Yeah, and you have to remember, at racing speeds of around 40 miles per hour, hitting packed dirt is the kinetic equivalent of being hit by a major league fastball.
He is nearly concussed. His eye instantly swells completely shut. He has zero depth perception in the middle of a G1 race against Almondai. And yet, Gran Alegria surges past to win by 2.5 lengths. Total domination.
It's wild.
The post-race interview is legendary. Zoe's standing there, one eye completely sealed shut, calmly giving his analysis. After beating the ultimate champion at a mile, she enters the sprinter stakes at Nakayama. Now, the geometry of Nakayama is notorious.
It's one of the most punishing sprint tracks in the world.
Explain why, because I think to the average person, 1,200 meters is 1,200 meters.
It's the topography. Nakayama features this downhill run early on that begs horses to go too fast too early. But the home stretch is incredibly short, only about 310 meters, and it features a brutal, steep uphill gradient right at the very end.
So it's basically a trap.
It's a huge trap. In a sprint, if you aren't already at the front of the pack when you hit that final short uphill stretch, the math says you simply do not have the runway to catch the leaders before the wire.
And Gran Alegria enters that impossibly short uphill straightaway in dead last.
Statistically impossible to win from there.
Every historical model says the race is over. But she unleashes this breathtaking burst of acceleration that defies the aerodynamics of the sport. She passes every single horse in the field to win by 2 lengths. The race call is legendary. The announcer just yells, "Her legs are different."
She bent the rules of the sport to her own strengths.
She then follows that up by beating the reigning champion, Indy Champ, at the Mile Championship. She completely unifies the spring and autumn mile double and secures best sprinter or miler. She has conquered the sprint and the mile. Which brings us to her 5-year-old season. And honestly, this is where I really struggle with the decisions her team made.
The pursuit of the 2,000-meter G1.
Yes. They decide they want a 3-distance championship sprint, mile and middle distance. So they enter her in the 2,000-meter Osaka High. She's facing Contrail, an undefeated Triple Crown winner. And her trainer, Fujisawa, drops this highly entertaining quote before the race. A reporter asks how a sprinter is going to handle 2,000 meters, and Fujisawa just smiles and says, "Gran Alegria hasn't realized the race is longer yet, so I think she'll be fine."
I love that quote. Fans were joking. She thinks 1,200 meters is a short mile and 2,000 meters is a long mile. But it's a brilliant piece of deflection, masking a very serious physiological experiment.
Right.
Going from 1,600 liters to 2,000 meters for a horse is like a human 400-meter sprinter suddenly trying to win an elite 800-meter race. It requires a completely different energy system.
And the conditions were miserable. It was a grueling, pouring rain. The track was heavily softened. An upset winner, Le Popole, takes the race, and Gran Alegria finishes 4th. She does bounce back to win the Victoria Mile by 4 lengths, showing she's still a machine at her natural distance. But then she loses the Yasuda Kinnan by a head to Danon Kingley. And if you watch that race, she didn't lose because she was slow. She lost because she was aggressively marked.
Right, marking in racing is a tactical defense. Everyone knew she was the threat. The other jockeys know she has that devastating late kick. So instead of trying to outrun her, they actively position their horses to box her in, maintaining a physical wall that prevents her from ever finding the open space she needs to extend her stride.
Which is so frustrating to watch.
It is. By the time she finally bullied her way out of that pocket, she had broke too much energy moving laterally, and Danon Kingley held her off by a fraction of a second.
But even after that heartbreak, they try the middle distance one more time. The Tenno Show Autumn. 2,000 meters again. This time against modern superstars Contrail and the young phenomenon Euphoria. She actually challenges early in the stretch. She fights, but ultimately the younger colts simply outstay her, and she finishes 3rd. Fujisawa didn't put her in the Osaka High or the Tenno Show just to stroke his ego. He did it because Gran Alegria's ceiling was so incomprehensibly high at 1,200 and 1,600 meters that the only way to find out where her limits actually lived was to force her to hit them. And look at what happened when she hit her limit. She didn't collapse.
No, she didn't.
She stood toe-to-toe with Triple Crown winners and Horses of the Year in the final stretch of a 2,000-meter race, and they had to run the absolute races of their lives just to beat her biology. There is no shame in finding the edge of your map. It's a lesson in the value of daring to fail. If you never hit a wall, you haven't actually explored the full extent of your potential.
That reframes it completely. It wasn't about failing at 2,000 meters. It was about proving that her sheer willpower could almost bridge a massive biological gap.
Exactly. The failures at 2,000 meters give context to her brilliance at a mile, which perfectly sets up the final chapter of her career. After exploring the absolute limits of her stamina, she returns to her ultimate domain for one final ride to close out an era, the mile championship.
And the emotional weight on this race was immense. This wasn't just Gran Alegria's farewell performance. It was the final G1 race for her trainer, Kazuo Fujisawa, who was facing mandatory retirement.
And the world had shifted, too. The post-COVID crowds were finally allowed back into the grandstands in massive numbers.
The stage was perfectly set.
It really was, and Gran Alegria delivers an absolute masterclass. She wins brilliantly, handing Fujisawa his final G1 victory. As she parades back in front of the grandstands, thousands of fans give this deafening, massive roar. It perfectly fulfills the literal translation of her name. A great celebration.
It's just a pristine ending to a deeply complex career. When you look at the totality of her resume, 15 starts, 9 wins, 6 G1 victories, but the numbers don't tell the story, the competition does.
Right, she never took the easy way out.
She didn't stay in the shallow end of the pool. She built her legend by violently clashing with the greatest horses of her era, regardless of their age, their gender, or their specialty.
She took on Almanai at a mile. She took on Contrail and Euphoria at 2,000 meters. She took on Indie Champ and Admire Mars. It reached a point where fans simply stopped asking, can she handle this distance, or can she handle this trip? They just started asking, is there anyone on Earth who can actually catch her?
She fundamentally altered the geometry of expectation. Because look, we all receive messages about what our lane is supposed to be. We are told our fast-twitch fibers or our background or our industry history dictate exactly where we can win and where we should just surrender.
Exactly.
Gran Alegria looked at a track like Nakayama where passing from the back was mathematically impossible, and she simply decided that her mechanics were different.
She decided the rules applied to everyone else's physiology, not hers.
Precisely. Gran Alegria proved that what the world calls a limitation is often just a suggestion. The barriers are descriptive, not prescriptive. True high performance requires the audacity to let your own mechanics dictate your limits, rather than letting the structure of the race dictate them for you.
That is so powerful.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.